Hello, this is Mr. Loy, your friendly D&T teacher again. For the toy display stand, classes who will be adding circuitry like this. For example, this is a button cell battery holder. As you can see, the inside we have a standard button cell 2016 or 3 volts. This holder can hold 2 button cells which is connected in series, and therefore you can actually have a 6 volt power supply. However, for our slow blinking LED, we only need just 1 button cell. And how do we help close the circuit over there? We just use aluminium foil. Alright, just to close the contact at the back end, place the button cell in the correct orientation. The plus or the anode is actually at the bottom. This top part here is the cathode or the minus. For this battery holder, there is a on-off switch provided. So when on it and you connect your LED in the correct polarity, then your LED will light up. The LED has polarity. As you can see, one of its legs is actually longer. This is the anode or the plus, where the positive terminal of the power supply, the current passes through it. This shorter leg is the cathode or the minus. It goes to the negative power supply. At the base of the LED, if you look closer, at the base, the plastic casing of the LED, the shorter leg, this part here, you will see that actually there is a flat edge. This flat edge also represents the negative terminal or the cathode of the LED. So down here you can see that there is a standard red and black. Red is where the current flows, the conventional current flows from the positive power supply, and of course the shorter leg of your LED is connected through this socket and to the black wire, okay, which goes back to the negative of the power supply. Now for you, you may not have the luxury of this socket being already fixed for you. So we are going to use mostly this type, which you can actually see through. It's similar, alright, just that this one is translucent. However, the socket is not big for you, and therefore we are going to learn how to expose more lengths of this wire so that you can wrap around, for example, the black wire to the negative and the positive to the red wire, and we are going to solder it. With this originally exposed length of wire, it will not be enough for you to wrap around the leg of the LED and solder. Therefore, we need to use proper tools that will help expose more of the wire from the insulation. The insulation here, red and black, are basically made of rubber. To demonstrate the stripping of the wire, or exposing the wire, we use what we call the wire stripper. This is one kind and one type. So basically you just push or rest the area between the jaws where you want the length of the wire to be exposed, and with just closing action of the handles here, you can actually expose the length of the wire as shown here. Another kind of wire stripper is this type that opens like a very funny tool. Okay, what it does is you also rest against the smallest angle. This part holds the back of the insulation in place. This is how much you want to expose the wire, and with one more closing of the handles, you can see that the wire is further exposed here, like the one shown here. Now there is another kind, which is the quite standard type. As you close, you can see that there are various size holes for the different diameter of the wires. So you got to find the right size one, otherwise either you cut off the wire itself, or there's nothing, it's just very loose. Okay, so you must find the right size hole, and what you do is you close it in the jaws, just close the handle and pull. Alright, so I further expose this part of the wire already. Last but not least, your cutter or your pair of combination plier is also very useful, but this one requires skill, because for a pair of cutters, basically you just cut wires, right, like so. Okay, so what you do is you crimp the area around the insulation, just by the side a little bit, and then you just not applying too much strength, not pressing all the way, because if you close all the way, you'll cut the wire. It's just nibbling along the edge and you just pull. Okay, so this is another way of exposing the wire. Now, how long should the exposed wire be? About 10 millimeter or 1 centimeter. Okay, this one here is slightly longer, so I'm going to trim it, and we are ready to solder. Hello, I'd like to share that the wires come in various diameter sizes. These are those suitable for our secondary school electronics projects. There are generally two kinds as well. As you can see here, this is what we call the multi-strand, which you will be using for you to wrap around the LED pins or the leg or the lead that we call. So it's easier to wrap around, but of course it comes in all over the shop, so you have to hold it in place and twist the wire so that the multi-strand becomes one. Okay, and of course the black wire will wrap around the shorter leg of your LED, which is your cathode, like so. The other type is single core. Single core is stiffer, as you can see. Alright, it can actually be used for plugging into the breadboard or prototyping board for you to do testing. So it is actually difficult to wrap a single core wire like this blue insulated wire over the leg of the LED, as shown here. So for this button cell battery holder, I've already exposed sufficient length of both the negative terminal and the positive terminal for you to wrap around the shorter leg, which is the negative terminal. Make sure that no wire actually touches the other leg, because we do not want to short circuit the LED. Alright, try to wrap the end of the wire as close as to the leg as possible, like so. And do the same for the positive leg of the LED, which is the longer one, the anode, the plus, with the red wire, as shown here. What we have here is the soldering iron, the soldering iron holder, the wet sponge for you to clean the tip of the soldering iron, which is the hottest part of the tool. Any exposed metallic area here will be very hot. So the only safe region to hold is the bakelite material, alright, hard plastic, and try not to hold any part of the wire here. This white piece here is actually a protection of the wire in case accidental touching of the black wire will melt and create a short circuit as well. So this one is a heat resistant protective material. Now the tip of the soldering iron needs to be cleaned like so, and sometimes what we do is we will use abrasive paper like this one here, commonly known as sandpaper, and we clean the tip like this to prepare for soldering. You can see that the abrasive paper is dirty because of the oxide that surrounds or covers the soldering iron tip. And of course, there are also industrial available what we call it soldering paste, or more commonly known as flux. So this chemical paste, what you do is just before you solder, you actually touch it. It actually quickly cleans the surface of the soldering iron tip, and when you use the solder, alright, and apply over where you want to solder the components, it will be smoother, alright. It cleans the immediate area where you want to solder. So I'm going to demonstrate the soldering now. In order for you to proceed to solder, we are going to apply what we call the solder here, which is a composite alloy of lead and silver. So basically lead is poisonous, so please wear masks when you solder or ensure that the room is well ventilated. Now you can see that if you are quite skilled in soldering, you will probably make use of only both hands. Alright, my non-master left hand will hold down the wire, and then I will just rest the tip of the soldering iron against the wire and introduce the solder from my left hand, like so. However, for all of us, it is always better to use a small short strip of masking tape to hold down either the LED or the wire where you want to solder, so that your hands are free to control, like so. So just rest the tip of the soldering iron a few seconds and quickly introduce the solder as it melts, and let it run over the area where you want the wire to be soldered to the LED leg. And for safety reason, always put the soldering iron back into the soldering iron holder. Now one more tip about soldering. Sometimes we prepare the end of the wire for it to be wrapped around components for soldering easier, and this is what we call tinning process, T-I-N-N-I-N-G. So what you do is you heat up the wire end and you apply a bit of solder and you run through the wire as such. Okay, so basically you're coating the surface of the wire with some solder. So this is called tinning process. For us to use only one button cell, we need to close the circuit here at the back with some aluminum foil. So you'll be provided with this, and what you do is the shining side, you fold the aluminum such that the shining side is on the outside. Okay, so basically you are folding a few times to create the thickness, so that when you slot it into the inside of the button cell holder, the contacts are in place. You are provided with either CR2016 or CR2032. They are both 3 volts, except for CR2016, it's slightly thinner. Our button cell holder can still hold on to your thinner button cell. Now at the bottom here is the plus, which is the positive. So you should place the plus facing it, and therefore the negative is right on top, close with a clip. There's an on-off switch here, so push to on, and your slow blinking LED will slowly change its color. There isn't a need for a fixed value resistor to protect this LED, because this rating of the LED is higher than 2 volts. So definitely this is good. And one more thing is to prevent accidental, because sometimes when you fix into your toy display stand, right, the legs, the exposed legs here may accidentally touch one another and create a short circuit. So one easy way out is to wrap a small strip of masking tape around one of the leg to create the insulation. Alright, prevent the other exposed area touching it. So you can actually wrap up to the bottom of the LED. So this concludes the assembling of your slow blinking LED.